As I mentioned yesterday, wherever I give talk, without special preparation, so nothing. Perhaps some people may get some sort of idea. You know, I am Buddhist monk and come from Tibet. I'm Tibetan. So Tibet, in the past, before 1950, bit isolated. But then, after 50, of course, then, in 54, I went to Peking and visit many area in China. So since my childhood, I have sort of keen interest about the technology. So while I was in China, they visit these big factories or heavy industry. I'm very much interested. Then 56 came to India. First time get this sort of feeling of open society, democracy. Then 59, now came as a refugee. So that really immense help to get wider knowledge, wider knowledge. So I must sort of express gratitude to Chinese government. Some way, you see, they become refugee, you see, got this opportunity. So then gradually develop interest about science. So at the beginning, see, when I discuss, when I express my desire, you see, dialogue or discuss with scientists, then some, even one American lady who Buddhist, and I in fact was married with one Tibetan Lama. So that that person told me science is the killer of religion. So be careful. She told me like that. And then I thought, science simply try to seek reality. I already noticed genuine scientists, very open-minded, and simply carrying investigation. Once through investigation, things become clear, then accept. Till through investigation, things become clear, so they remain skeptical. So that way of approach is exactly same Buddhism in general, particularly Nalanda tradition. Buddha himself express follower, right, or bhikshus and wise men who follow me should not accept my teaching out of faith, but rather out of thorough investigation and experiment. So this is a very scientific way. Obviously, among the Buddha's followers, there are so many different mental dispositions. So Buddha taught different philosophical view because of different mental disposition. So looks literally there is contradiction. So sometimes I jokingly was telling people, these contradictory philosophy taught by one person, Buddha, Shakyamuni, is certainly not, I mean, with respect, Buddha. So I usually say telling, jokingly, these contradictory philosophy taught by Buddha Shakyamuni, not due to his own confusion. He himself not very clear. No, certainly not. Nor he deliberately taught these contradictory philosophy in order to create more confusion among his followers. Certainly not. So there are, you see, different philosophical viewpoints, you see. I said, there, in Buddha's word. So therefore, he mentioned this in my teaching. There are according individual, I mean, different individual mental disposition, you see, he taught different philosophy. So now, you have the responsibility to investigate thoroughly, which is by sort of the ultimate sort of truth, definite teaching. So very clear, as I briefly mentioned yesterday, all those Nalanda masters, you see, they utilize investigation, maximum way, investigate whether this Buddha's sort of teaching is acceptable or not. So, same way, scientists, open mind, and investigate, experiment. Buddhist Nalanda tradition also investigate. Of course, what's the method? The means different. Scientists with instrument and calculate, calculation, measurement. The Buddhists mainly, you see, the reasoning, comparison. So there's a little difference. Otherwise, you see, the same manner, investigate. The scripture always mentioned among the follower of Buddha, two kinds. One, just accept whatever is the text say. Another, very skeptical and investigate what is the meaning, what the content of the text, what is relevant to our life. First, investigate these things. Then, firstly, you know the content. Then know the relevant in our life. Short-term interest, long-term interest. Then you follow that text. That's the way. So this is a very scientific way. Of course, up to now, modern science, because their method, measurement, and calculation. So mainly physical world. Consciousness is not physical world. So modern science up to now much behind about science of mind. Buddhism much advanced about inner science or science of mind. So in fact, you see, some scholar from the West describe Buddhism is not religion. Buddhism is science of mind. There are some truth. So now obviously, now last 30 years, as I mentioned yesterday, you see, we have serious discussion with scientists in mainly 4 fields. Cosmology, although Mount Meru, these things are outdated. But the basic sort of element, 5 element, space, the energy or movement, then heat, then liquid, then solid. These things basically same how develop Big Bang. Then gradually you see the change or multiply. All these same view. External things also ultimately 5 element come from 5 element and eventually dissolve space. So then Buddhists, the sentient being, as I mentioned earlier, the life without consciousness and life with consciousness. Now there, on top of 5 element, consciousness add, include consciousness. So 6 elements like that. So otherwise you see the very similar, the Darwinian theory and the modern sort of what's the cosmologist explanation, very similar. Then the neurobiology. Again, you see yesterday briefly mentioned. There also you see the Buddhists, including Tantrayana, some explanation about the body structures and including this subtle energy. Sometimes we call air, but not just the common sense, but something moving. So that I think maybe more energy.
So better what we usually call as the air, or what you breathe in and out, so that in a strict sense we can call it energy rather than air.
Energy. So even mind is moving due to its own energy, like that. There is also the common interest, common sort of ground discussed with scientists about brain specialist or neuron and gene rare. Because genome. Very interesting. There are sort of also the precise sort of knowledge and through investigation. So immense help to us to learn like that. Then again yesterday we discussed this subatomic, the quarks, and then the quantum physics, these things. Again, the common ground investigation. Then psychology, Buddhist psychology, much advanced. So therefore, interest among scientists last 30 years, because of the year by year increasing. Whereas we, Tibetan Buddhist sort of the student side, initially my own personal curiosity, I start that. Now eventually interest among our monastic institution now growing about science. So therefore, now I think 6-7 years, since 6-7 years, we already carry some program, selected monk student study science. Now long-term plan, with help of Emory University in Atlanta, is already now translated the basic science courses, 5 years sort of courses, already translated into Tibetan. So we already have this material. Now we are thinking the science course should include in our curriculum in those monastic institutions. These monastic institutions typically is a follower of Nalanda, they are keeping Nalanda tradition, like that. So that's how this is our development, close work, science, modern science, and Buddhist tradition, like that. That I want to share with you. Then another thing, perhaps, whether you at this moment, whether you have interest or not, I want to tell you something. So that is last 51 years here in this country, and also have the opportunity to visit different part of the world, and also from time to time, sort of also the heard, right? Or hearing, heard, you see the conflict. Although I think the now 21st century, I think compare 20th century, I think the overall picture much better, much safer. Till later part of 20th century, the real threat of nuclear holocaust there. Few occasions I visited the West Germans border. So sometimes when I spent one night in this area, a little fear. If something happened, from India come that place to wait nuclear bomb, like that. So that kind of situation now completely changed. So overall picture, the world much safer, much better. So of course pockets here and there, some violence is still there. Then of course you see the terrorist, or danger of terrorist is invisible sort of force, difficult. Large scale of sort of military sort of forces. There's clear target. So you can use because of the forceful, because of the weapons. But invisible, difficult, isn't it? So in any way, and I think the whole world, the word peace, everywhere, peace, world peace, world peace. I think people generally really fed up about violence, about bloodshed. That's clear. In early part of 20th century, or till early part of 20th century, when nation declare war, every citizen proudly joined mobilization of the war. Since Vietnam War, now that kind of situation no longer there. When you see the nation declare, people put big question, why? So actually, just before Iraqi crisis, millions of people come out opposing violence, from Australia up to Washington, like that. These are clear indications. The desire, peace is very strong. Such, as I mentioned yesterday, now we should create, we should promote, if we really want peaceful world, then we must create an effective, practical method to face this conflict without using force. That is dialogue. In our case also, Tibet case also, you see, we fully committed dialogue, not confrontation with Chinese government. So therefore, So then I really impressed India's 1,000-year-old ahimsa. The concept of ahimsa should not remain lip, because lip service where must in our blood. So India's concept of ahimsa, Mahatma Gandhi, freedom fight, he implemented 1,000-year-old India's concept of ahimsa. And then follow Mahatma Gandhi's sort of example, Nelson Mandela, also, in spite his early period a little bit sort of militant, but later part, when actual transform of South Africa through non-violence way. So now today, non-violence, ahimsa, is in fact one political, political, I don't know, political reality. So this is one thing. Then, as I mentioned it briefly yesterday, I had few occasions visit Northern Ireland. Actually, I met some victims of, you see, conflict, two parties conflict. I met. Actually, they concerned, organizer, my visit, you see, they organized one meeting, victims, meeting with victims. So before I entering the room, they warned me, or some of these victims may shout, or some kind of some kind of expression of more militant way. I also a little bit anxiety when I entering the room. Then I greeting and then sat together on their face, full of hatred and sadness. No? But then we start talk. Then I think about 2 hours like that. Then the whole atmosphere within the room become much warmer. Then my second visit, again I met some of these victims. They completely changed on their face, smile, very sort of happy mood. That not come by force, but come through meeting. So there are one great Northern Islanders, his name was Richard Moore. I think one day, I think you should invite that person and listen his own personal story. When he was very young, I think 10, I think teenage, the British soldier shot rubber bullet, stuck his forehead. Instantly, both eye lost. Then immediately brought in hospital. He fainted, and when his sort of consciousness recovered, his first thought, now I am no longer seeing my mother's face, not anger, not hatred. So eventually he tried to find out the British soldier who shot on his forehead. he found, they become very close friend. I usually describe him as my hero. And recently, I invited in Dharamsala, and we met in Dharamsala, and some his talk at TCV. So human being, he is not religious minded. But we human being, by nature, we have that kind of sort of potential. So in any way, when I saw conflict, although I think political, economy reasons, but often use the religious faith. So therefore, the religious harmony which exists in this country more than 2000 years. So then I really impressed India's ahimsa concept and practice of harmony on the basis of mutual respect, all different religious traditions. So then I, acting like messenger of ancient Indian tradition, two things: promotion of ahimsa, promotion of religious harmony, these two things. When I, as a Buddhist, my way of promotion of ahimsa, dealing with motivation, not just because of the physical action, but motivation. So non-violence action is the action of compassion. Person, compassion there, non-violence automatically comes. Hatred, so long, hatred, suspicion, fear there, apparently calm, but potential of violence always there. So we must deal with motivation level. So I always try to promote importance of warm-heartedness or compassion, as we discussed yesterday. So that's the basis of non-violence. Then meantime, you see, telling different religious tradition. Now I'm Buddhist. I never try to propagate Buddha Dharma. I love Buddhism. Of course, I have faith, Buddhism, not other religion, but I have equal respect to all other religions. So I never try to propagate or promote Buddhism. When I give lecture on Buddhism in the West, I always make clear they have their own traditional religion. It is much safer and better to keep their own traditional religion. Changing religion is not easy. So that means we respect, we admire. Theoretically, yes, the concept of God, a little bit from the Buddhist viewpoint, a little controversial, but doesn't matter. It works. It brings immense sort of benefit to millions of people in the past, at present, in future too. So we must accept that reality. So that's India's tradition. Argument there, through centuries, argument there. But you say no, without losing respect. So these two things I really impressed. Last 51 years I learned from this country. So therefore, I am acting like messenger of India. While I'm talking these things to different part of the world, I really feel proud. But in the meantime, within the country, these two things not remain just because of the idea or traditional thing. It is something very relevant to today's world. You should be more active in these two fields. And within the country also, you see, we must refresh these ideas. And then tell other people. Sometimes I used to jokingly telling people, my Indian friend, you see, you export ahimsa, and to some extent world. So eventually, too much export, reduce within the country is not good. So you must export as much as possible. Meantime, produce within the country more. So that I want to tell you. Then other sort of, although I don't know, you see, I don't know, you see, in fact, now 50 years passed, still my Hindi, I really feel shame. My Hindi, very limited, thora. Just a few words, khana, pani, changchang pani, garam pani. Otherwise, you see, my Hindi, very limited, almost none. That's I really feel shame. Of course, my English also very limited, very broken English. But okay, it is quite useful. So, but still, you see, according to newspaper, from time to time, some low-caste community facing unnecessary problems. You cannot drink or you cannot share the well by lower section of the kasada, low caste. And last year, I think, in Haryana, some marriage because of this different caste, and actually murder case also happened. So although these, I think, direct responsibility, these religious people. So my recent visit, Hardwar and Rishikesh, there are many spiritual leaders there. I frankly mentioned these things. I proud be messenger of this country. But meantime, within the country, some backward there, we must address seriously. It is not right to say, oh, Constitution provides equal right. No. We must work. Unfortunately, some people come from low caste. Sometimes there are, one time, you see, my one experience, I think in late 60, very early, 40 years ago, one occasion in UP, one meeting with some religious Buddhist group. And they, among the audience, or among the speaker, some come from low caste, untouchable, untouchable. Sometimes people call new Buddhist. So at that meeting, Lama Losangji, Ladaki, perhaps you know. Have you seen? No? Okay. Lama Losangji there, he actually arranged that meeting. So at the meeting, some of the speakers criticized Brahmin so forcefully. Then among the audience, some Brahmin there, they stand up and counter, sort of argue or sort of criticize. I really, I'm between there. I just used to be like that, quite sort of, quite bad, quite sad. Lama Losangji, since he arranged, so he himself also a little bit because of that. I think he must feel a little bit embarrassment. Oh, like that. So some occasion in Maharashtra and also in Mysore, Karnataka state, when I met some of these, say, new Buddhists who converted Buddhism from the low caste, I always telling them, you need self-confidence instead of little sort of inferior sort of complex, and that transformed anger. It's not good. So you must work hard. Firstly, education. Then secondly, work hard. And the upper class or richer side, provide them facility, education, and instrument, and should give them training, and let them stand, right? So, India, most populated democratic country, compare Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, Pakistan, this country, now nearly 70 years, very, very stable. Large number of Muslims there, Christians there, but very stable. You should feel proud. Now, meantime, we must address some problems here and there. We must address, and you should think seriously about this problem. That can be changed, can be improved. So that I want to share with you, since most cases you are young student, so your future is very bright, so you can make significant contribution for improvement of this country. So that I want to tell you. Finished. Now questions.
In order to economize on time, what we have been suggested, we'll take 5 or 6 questions together and we'll hear them together, and Doji will note them down, and then His Holiness can address them. So we'll take 6 or 7 questions together.
First there.
So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, the fundamental belief in Hinduism is do your job, do your work, but don't expect any fruits of your job. Don't expect any results. What is the Buddhist point on this? And is it possible at an individual level to actually practice this?
Sadaji.
So my question is, in today's world, the life is getting busier and busier, even in countries like India. So my question is, in what direction is the multi-religion paths and work ethics will be going in the next direction, in the next generation?
In ethical research. Good. Next question. Oh, louder.
My question is that because today's world is becoming more and more violent, So today's world is becoming more and more violent. So how does compassion and peace help us to reconcile with our own with our own love and compassion, right? So how does it help us to deal with these problems of terrorism and attacks?
Mount Louis. Any? There.
Can you speak in the mic?
Hello. My question is related to politics. All the Tibetan people are considering His Holiness is God, so they have a sense of fear and a sense of afraid, and because of this, there's a big gap between Tibetan common people and Dalai Lama. So what I'm saying is, so many bad things are happening, like a cultural genocide, degeneration. Tibetans are now losing their culture and everything. So why don't His Holiness the Dalai Lama come down and lead us like a Gandhi and struggle for our own case through non-violence? Yeah, this is my main question.
Through violence?
Non-violence.
Through normal.
Like Gandhi, for example, peace march. Why His Holiness come down and lead us and act like a Gandhi? Because we have no much time. His Holiness is expecting so much from Tibetans and thinking that Tibetans will do something. And the Tibetans are considering His Holiness Dalai Lama as a god and expecting so much from His Holiness Dalai Lama. And there's a big gap and we are just wasting time. So, thanks.
Sir, good morning, sir. My question, I just wanted to know that when Tibet will be a free country, will it have an army? That's my question.
Okay, one last to the lady there. Yeah, just and then we'll stop for the moment.
After all those serious questions, so what is the secret of your very contagious smile? That is my only question.
What is this?
Oh, I see. That way. 당연히 패스 낭배 슝그나라 랑치부 시디 텐도 닝행기 베나 짐바담드자네 패지 랜 레사바 패지 요리 진짜 이번 인도산에 베나 안 토미기 창세나라 전주 선배 진배 냠네 주산에 랜 미르워스야디 난데지 소요
Even in Buddhism, there are a few categories, one of which practice includes someone, the practitioner, seeking personal liberation, personal nirvana. So here, there's some kind of expectation for oneself through one's own actions. Whereas the teachings as given by Arya Asanga in his text known as the Bodhisattva Bhumi, or Bodhisattva's ground. So there, he said that any action, for example, action of generosity by a Bodhisattva, when you do that, they must not have any sense of expectation in return.
Any other questions? Question liberty. The second question, right? No. I think there are different sort of religions, but as far as because of the ethics, like compassion. Compassion brings forgiveness, tolerance. These matter, all religion, same. And these different philosophy, for example, concept of creator, is supposed to backing these practice. And non-theistic religion, such as Jainism and Buddhism, accept their law of causality. That also is supposed backing, you see, these values. So the different philosophy there, but same purpose. And according to different people, more or less same effect. Then the problem is those non-believer. Now we must find ways and means to make clear ethical life is immense benefit to oneself. As we discussed yesterday, including your health and happy society, happy family, even long-lasting happy marriage. Very much, sometimes I jokingly say, telling people, particularly those young girls, you spend, you see, a lot of money for cosmetic. So that's only for external beauty, isn't it? Meantime, you must pay more attention about inner beauty. Face, very nice, but lack of inner beauty, then within a few weeks, quarrel will start. Isn't it? Inner beauty, there, one time I joking over one story. One Tibetan government monk official, in early 60s, eventually he disrobed. And he found one wife. So since I know him, one very trusted, reliable official. So one day I asked him, "Oh, your wife, not that much attractive." Then he answered, "Yes, physically not much attractive, but inner beauty is concerned, excellent." Then I have nothing to say. So we have, I think we have to make effort, promotion of a secular way to make the deeper awareness or conviction. The warm-heartedness is immense benefit to oneself. Usually, you see, people get the impression, when we talk love and compassion, forgiveness, people feel this is a religious matter. I have no interest about religion, so this also, you see, not relevant to me. That kind of impression. Secondly, practice of love and compassion, the people feel it is benefit to other, but not necessarily benefit to oneself. That's totally wrong. The maximum benefit goes to practitioner himself or herself. It is very clear. Now again, you see some small sort of story. A few occasions, I think one occasion in Germany, when I passing through car, so as my sort of usual sort of habit, when I saw a person, I always smile. So then one occasion, one young lady passing through an eye contact happened, I smiled. Then that lady, perhaps you see, felt some suspicion. Why? You see, this person in the car, without any special reason, is just smiling at me. So my compassionate expression brought more suspicion on that person. Isn't it? No benefit. But to myself, that's all, feel okay. Like that. So therefore, practice because of benefit of compassion, first benefit go to oneself. That's very clear. And also practical level. In, I think, late 60 or I think late 60 or maybe early 70, one Englishman, Felix Green, a communist, very great admirer of Chinese communist, and actually he, I think, close friend of late Zhong Anlai. One day he came to Dharamsala with some motion picture, and then some of our officials who received him already informed me that person is very, very sort of supportive of Communist China. Then we met. Then we had, I think, at least 3 days, lengthy sort of conversation. And he showed pictures, those motion pictures. And with that motion picture, he asked some questions. Then I, with my usual smile, and explained. Then within 3 days, his attitude completely changed. If I stand more negative attitude, then no possibility to change his mind. General way, respect him and then explain the truth. His mind changed. Then eventually, I was told he settled in Latin America, not in China. So these are this is one example. So the secular way promote these values. These value itself not come from religion, as I mentioned yesterday. Biologically, we have these sort of potential there. So the ethical sort of values are actually secular ethics. So the way of promotion these secular, these sort of the ethics also should be secular, because of secular way, like that. Third, violence, more violence. As I mentioned earlier, Sure, I think violence, more violence on this world, you mentioned. I don't think, overall, as I mentioned before, in early till mid part of 20th century, and today, I think overall picture much better. And meantime, among the society, you see, the younger people, the lack of sort of affection in the family. There's some more frustration, lonely feeling. Actually, few occasions. One occasion I remember in San Francisco. You see, we had some seminar. The participant, some scientists, some psychologists, some social workers. The theme discussion is the social unrest, particularly among the youth. I think 3 days seminar, they finally unanimous sort of view is the today's sort of society in the family lacking affection. That's the main cause. The more and more youth mentally unhappy, so it becomes more violent, like that. So overall picture, I think better. So that's why, in order to tackle violence, increase weapon, increase police force or military force is not the answer. Look now, China, in the name of stability, increase police force. It actually, you see, counterproductive, very clear. Just 4 or 5 days ago, I met one Chinese from mainland China. He, 2008, he visited Lhasa after crisis. Then just a few days ago, just a few months ago, you see, he visited once more. And he told me, he told me in the front of cathedral, number of Tibetan making prostration. Same spot, Chinese soldier with uniform, military exercise with loud Chinese word. And then,
Circumambulate, the place where circumambulation is taking place.
Tibetan with spiritual sort of mind go like this. The Chinese soldier, a group soldier, go this way and say ER like that. 1, 2, 1, 2 like that. Go like that. So then he mentioned to me actual sort of split movement carried by Chinese themselves. He mentioned that. So in the name of stability, using force is counterproductive. So we must educate our future generation, younger generation. Nobody wants a problem. I think it's quite a reality, quite obvious. Every people, over 6 billion human beings on this planet, everyone, in early morning when they wake up, nobody feel, today I want more problem, so that I can stand firm. I think nobody think that way. From the day start, everybody feel, now, even those people who involved in problem, they feel now at least today less problem. Meantime, many problems we are facing is essentially man-made problem. Why? Lack of awareness, lack of education. So therefore, through education, only through education, we can change people's mentality. That's the only way. So overall, I think very hopeful. Last few decades, later part of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, I think overall picture, I feel hopeful. Fourth, now that person. Yes, now let us just start the peaceful movement from here in front of Chinese embassy. What result? What real result? We have truth. But unfortunately, on this planet now today, particularly in political power politics, truth, justice, not much value. So I know many young people, they are such sort of Tibetan spirit. And meantime, inside Tibet, you see there's suppression, immense. So it is very understandable. But these things you have to think. I think Mahatma Gandhi ji, when he carried some movement, I think he looks all sides and very much calculated. Then start his movement, like fasting. Till he saw through fasting, something he can achieve. Then he start. Without aimless, I don't think he'd do that, isn't it? So that's of course political. But I just want, you see, those Tibetan media people, you see, 2 days are sort of a lot of discussion. Just a few words pick up, then send inside Tibet. And not good. I don't want that. I do not want to send some kind of sort of message to inside Tibet. Something harmful for their sort of spirit. I do not want. And within ourselves, anything can be discussed. We fully committed to democratic principle, including direct criticism towards me, most welcome, no problem. But we should not, create a certain impression inside Tibet. Now, outside Tibet, the Tibetan government, or the Tibetan our central organization, not doing enough. In spite, opportunity there, but we neglect. I don't think last 51 years, we never lost opportunity. That I think those Tibetans must know that. And within ourselves, anything can be discussed. I think our last parliament, parliament meeting, the chaos situation took place. The Chinese in Lhasa, they especially, show this picture in order to demoralize Tibetan there. Actually, it's happened. Nothing much serious, but they especially, pick up these things and show Tibetan. Like that. So, this is catching with that. Subscription about that. Just one. Kanda Shilu Jajim Man Didi, Seminar Lolia, that Chiloli and Didi, non yet Chigmagata, Perushan, Rangzet, Troop Social Ready, Rangzet Trugum into Sin. Didn't they share that? Kansas think that. Just one. Next. Oh, cook details. When Tibet will free, right? Nobody knows. The Minister Chavan, Defense Minister, Mr. Chavan, and I think the cousin, 80, 70, Chavan you do. He Defense Minister then. 80. It's one time I met, and of course, as usual, we discuss about the Tibetan problem. Then he mentioned when Indian freedom struggle carry, nobody knows when things change, but we carry the struggle. So here we also, nobody knows some positive change when come, but we carry our struggle. And particularly our struggle as one ancient nation with unique cultural heritage. See, our main concern is the useful Tibetan Buddhist culture. I usually used to make distinction Buddhism and Buddhist culture. Buddhism meant for Buddhist. Buddhist culture, community. Among the community, there are non-believers also there, Christians also there, Muslims also there. One example, Tibetan Muslim, at least the last 4 centuries, these Tibetan Muslim, their religion is Muslim, Islam. But their way of life is very much in the spirit of Buddhist culture. So therefore, that Buddhist culture is really worthwhile to preserve. And now, the last 2 years, I met a number of Chinese intellectuals, at least a few hundred of them. Many of them come from mainland China. And some of them express with tear the China, the 1,000-year-old Chinese traditional value gone. Now every level full of corruption. So, in future, restoration of human value, that's their main concern. For that, they are hoping towards Tibetan. Tibetan can help to restore human values in mainland China. So our main concern is preservation of Tibetan culture. It's not only concern for 6 million Tibetan, but also you see millions of young Chinese. Now today, in mainland China, number of Buddhists over 200 millions. So almost, I think, the biggest population, Buddhist population, I think, on this world. Of course, Japanese also is a Buddhist country. Any Japanese? No. But they are quite sort of, also the luxuries, luxury type. I mean, when their birth sort of the ceremony, according to Shintoism, marriage according to Christian, death ceremony according to Buddhism. So they are quite sort of luxury barbeta. Take something from Shintoism, something from Christian, something from Buddhism, like that. So like that. So therefore, and after all, when I teach or express, like a Palestine problem, I always mention the Palestine, particularly Hamas site, stand a very tough elimination of Israel. Impossible. The Israeli site, again, some of these things eliminate. Difficult. Only practical thing is sit together and dialogue with mutual respect and realistic. That's the only way. So I always telling, whenever I saw some problems, now Indo-Pakistan also, sit together. And now Kashmir problem, I think Indian government used to offer something recently. These are good. So talk. That's the only way. Increase military force, not much help. That's the only way. So while I'm expressing that way, then for our own sort of problem, we have to sort of carry according to that principle. Confrontation way. So far, not seeking independence. That brought a lot of support from Chinese intellectuals. One time in Harvard University, I met some Chinese intellectuals or students, I think early 80, 90, after Tiananmen event. I met firstly about 200 Chinese students, then the detailed discussion with small group, about I think 20 of them. Some scholars, some teachers, some students, some also the refugees from Tiananmen event. So I explain our sort of stand, our thinking. Usually I call middle way of approach. Then after our sort of lengthy discussion, including lunch, after that, all these Chinese respond to me, if your thinking, your approach, knows Chinese people, then entire Chinese people will support. So now since then, number of occasions in meeting with Chinese in Australia, in Japan, in America, Canada, in Europe, number of occasions I met. I have full confidence and proud to say our struggle is not one side win, one side defeat, not that way. Both sides win. So we have full confidence approach that way. So our young Tibetan must utilize our intelligence, look Broadway. And then also, I tell you, Tibetan, every Tibetan wants modernized Tibet. One indication, several thousand Tibetans from India illegally immigrate America, Canada, and Europe, not for spiritual reason, but a dollar. That's clear indication. Tibetan also want more money, isn't it? So therefore, Tibet, landlocked country, materially backward. Meantime, every Tibetan wants more prosperity. In that case, remain within the People's Republic of China. As the Indian Prime Minister is mentioned, economically, China is more advanced than India. It's true. So, more sort of material prosperity, more material development, remain within the People's Republic of China. It's our interest. Meantime, we should have full sort of meaningful autonomy so that we can preserve Tibetan culture, Tibetan identity, Tibetan language, and we can take maximum care about the environment. The negligence about ecology in Tibetan plateau. Now already we here, and also China itself, suffer as a result of immense deforestation. Now a lot of unprecedented flood took place. So when Chorumshin Prime Minister, he actually, gives some instruction, stop or reduce deforestation. But because of corruption, still going on. Some Chinese ecologists, describe Tibet plateau, third pole. The effect, global warming, from Tibetan plateau is as much as North Pole and South Pole. So they describe Tibetan plateau as a third pole. This is some Chinese scientist. He wrote an article. I saw that. Then I think, just for information, rate of global level warming, 0.1. Warming in Tibetan plateau, 0.3. Higher. So therefore, the preservation or protection of Tibetan environment is a very, very important matter for India and also those countries which connected with Mekong River and then Yellow River, these which go through China. So, like former Soviet Union, environment issue, no knowledge. So as a result, a lot of damage happened. Now, fortunately, People's Republic of China now paying some attention about preservation of ecology. But still, they consider their national interest priority than global interest. So Copenhagen summit failed. Now this time America really make effort, but with the combination India and China, I think, frankly speaking, the Chinese government, I think, manipulate India. So these are clearly these shows these effective big nations. They take their national interest is priority than global interest. So that's unfortunate. So again, these are lack of long-sighted way, far-sighted. If global warming continuously increase in this way, everybody, every nation will suffer. So I always telling Chinese friend, no matter how powerful People's Republic of China, still part of the world. So Chinese government have to go according world trend. That's the only future of China, right? Future of China. World trend, more open, more transparent, and China go different way. That's unrealistic. What do you think? You agree? Thank you. Thank you, like that. Now, seventh. Sure. We are not seeking independence of Tibet. We, like Tibetan Youth Organization, they fight for independence. Right from the beginning, I telling them, you are carrying our right, our sort of way of struggle, way of approach is immediate Tibet. The things are really desperate. One party secretary of autonomous region of Tibet, about, I think, more than 10 years ago, one occasion at a party meeting, he actually mentioned ultimate source of threat, Tibet being separate from mainland China, is Tibetan Buddhist faith. So accordingly, they intensified restriction, some cases total ban, study about Buddhism, or even the school book, every word which can signify Buddhism omit. Now, last year I heard one information, some Chinese authority in autonomous region of Tibet, they are thinking these big monasteries, previously several thousand monk students. Now these monasteries should be just like museum. Few monk as a caretaker. Otherwise, no longer as a center of Buddhist study. Already they implemented that. Just a few days ago, I met one journalist who visited there. He told me this, he witnessed like that. And that Chinese also told me like that. So therefore, things are really desperate. So as far as our approach is concerned, I think we can count, years, next 5 years, 10 years, we can achieve something. Complete independence, just this moment, difficult. I don't think Chinese people, I think, accept that. Meantime, our official statement, right from the beginning, made very clear, past history is concerned, the Chinese version is not true. So there are Tibetan version, Chinese official version, Chinese individual version, and Western historian and legal experts version. So that means we do not accept Tibet historically as a part of China. And also now here, of course now this is too much a political statement. Okay. Okay, like that. Now, Kasadi.
What is the secret of the contagious smile of His Holiness?
Nothing secret. If I had sufficient sleep and good breakfast, and then the whole day, very happy mood, a smile.
Hello.
Now another yes.
Hello.
We'll take another set of questions, so we'll go first.
Hello.
Your
Actually,
Holiness.
I have one question. It's very much related to what His Holiness is speaking right now. It's very much related to that. So I want to ask now. It's okay?
Kodo.
It's here.
Karsa. I think our meeting here, mainly academic culture. So I prefer no more questions about the political struggle, these things.
It's okay. Thank you.
Your Holiness, I am so grateful that you are here, present today. Thank you so much. I'd just like to ask one question. Is dying or death peaceful?
Karsa. Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Next.
more people who haven't asked before, can we have those who have never asked a question before?
As His Holiness mentioned, every act of good and selfless deed does maximum benefit to the doer himself. So my question is, does the act still remain good and selfless if the doer knows that it's going to come back to him?
Karsa. English.
So it's going.
Champagne Mulvese.
Hello.
Okay, good morning, Your Holiness. Would you
Professor Sen Gupta, just once. We'll come to you.
Foremost, a very welcome for His Holiness and the Ling Rinpoche for this kind visit tonight. And we are very much obliged because of his frequent visit to this university in the midst of his very, very hectic schedule. Thank you very much, His Holiness.
Karsa.
And my question is, how His Holiness personally define life in vain? Life in vain. Mili Rinpoche Chungse Chisedo. Because we consider we are blessed as in born as a human being. So, how he considered life in vain?
Yes.
Yeah, Sunita, we'll answer this.
What does moksha or nirvana mean to a common man? And what do you think, Your Holiness, that you would like to suggest for a common man? How can he or she attain it?
Good morning, Your Holiness. Would you please share...
Gentlemen there, just one at a time. So let us point out and then we have questions. Yes? Yes, sir. You can ask now.
Okay. Would you please share some of your unforgettable memories, sacrifices and international community help in your exile life?
Karsa. Karosa. Your question not very clear.
Would you please share some of your unforgettable memories, sacrifices and international community help in your exile life?
Karsa. Karsa.
Good morning, sir. My question is it possible to attain liberation without completing the karma cycle? And is liberation a personal realization, or is a divine influence required for liberation? And also, as we humans strive for happiness and peace, so why is it so hard for us to realize the need for liberation?
So, no.
And what is the second part? Why is it so hard?
Why do we strive for liberation?
As we as humans strive for happiness and peace, so why is it so hard for us to realize the need for liberation?
What you got there? Okay.
Is modern science can also harm?
Yeah, go on. The girl. Yes.
Good morning, Your Holiness. Your Holiness, I just want to know that Buddhism is, without offending anyone here, I just want to know that Buddhism is generally blamed of escapism. Like life is full of sorrows, we must do away with desires. So what do you personally feel about it? Thank you.
What's that? What's Buddhism?
Do away with desire.
To do some kind of such.
Do away with desire.
Okay, yes. Next.
Is modern science can also harm human beings? For example, cloning or stem cells. It can have also, the modern science can also have another side. For example, cloning. It can also bring harm to the human being.
Clones, I think.
In the Nalanda tradition, and at that time, considering that Tibetan Buddhism carries forward that tradition, so what was the, like I'm a student of philosophy, and the way we study it is that there's a metaphysics on which then the ethics is based, and you based on the metaphysics of an Atman and on the ethics. Is there a political philosophy, or I don't know, how would you?
What does it mean by political philosophy?
I don't know, what does Buddhism have to say about
What does it mean from your point of view?
Some understanding of the state or of a citizen or of a nation, rights, ethics, duties, like that.
And with your permission, can I also, do I have a right to ask a question? This is actually my wife's question, and she couldn't be here, so she asked me to pass this to His Holiness, and I asked him in the morning, but to share so that I haven't still received an answer. And the question is, if there's so much suffering in the world, animals are suffering, humans are suffering, and we are sensitive to that suffering, we are compassionate, then how do we remain happy? How does His Holiness remain cheerful? And is it ethical to remain cheerful and happy when there's so much suffering in the world?
That is right. Now first question. As I mentioned yesterday, so every phenomena which have life, which have the basic right to exist, then naturally that means end. So it's some kind of uncomfortable happen. But then yesterday also I mentioned, if things, although you feel very painful but unavoidable, then not much use to too much worry. Death we must accept as a part of our life. Logically, there is birth, there is death. Logical. Now, the major factor is death, in any case, come part of our life. So important is, while we are alive, our daily life should be meaningful, purposeful. As I mentioned yesterday, very purpose of our life is happy, satisfaction, calm. And then, you see, utilize our body, speech, mind to benefit as much as you can to other. Then last day come, you feel okay, no regret. I utilize my whole life in a positive way, some benefit to other. Never create harm other. Then you feel very happy. No regret at least. So that's one way. Then of course, religious believer, then according to one's own religious faith, you see there are some different method at the time of death. Next. What about? All right. Now, second question. Of course, altruism. No? Altruism. Altruism. There are many levels. According to Buddhism, the topmost sort of altruism we call bodhicitta. Bodhi means enlightened, enlightenment. So the very name of the infinite altruism we call enlightened. Just one.
Bodhicitta.
So that means that infinite altruism combination with wisdom or awareness. So firstly, your main concern is well-being of other. And actual bodhicitta mind, changju tuani, shanju tuani, niya.
So this bodhicitta, the altruistic intention to become a Buddha, so it is consisted of two parts. One, with the aspiration for the benefit of others, and the other, the aspiration to achieve Buddhahood for oneself.
So the element, one's own benefit also there. But that in order to help other. If you yourself remain
without any potential or capability,
like usually you see it mentioned, like a mother who very much sort of love her child, that child, when you see carried by the river, then mother
if the mother is handicapped, then the mother can't do anything to protect or to save the life of the child.
In order to protect, in order to help other, firstly, you yourself, you see, should improve some ability to help other. Otherwise, just wishful thinking. So, right from the beginning, if the person they practice these things in order to gain maximum to oneself, then wrong. Think others top most important, but byproduct you get maximum benefit. Okay. So sometimes I see telling people, we are selfish, but we should be wise selfish rather than foolish selfish. So maximum help other, bring maximum happiness, satisfaction to oneself. That's why selfish. Self-interest, the neglect about others' well-being, and worst thing, harm other, exploiting on other, abuse other, suppress other, cheating other, lying other. That's foolish, sort of selfish. What do you think? Do you agree? That is. Next question. Milichusu. Sometimes I tell people, our life, maximum 100 years. So this is to compare the 5 billions of years since you see our planet is start, or since Big Bang happened, then I think between 15 to 20 billions of years. So 100 years, very short. So from the Buddhist viewpoint, the limitless birth. Now we simply come here as a visitor, tourist, short period. So while you visit as a visitor, a tourist, create more problems. That's the really wasteful of your life. It's senseless. You say a sort of tourist, spend a few days a place, then try to create problem at that place. It's senseless. You just visit this area and then go. So we, from kind of wider perspective, like that. So 100 years, about I think at least 10, 15 years is a child. And later part, too old, you yourself cannot manage properly. So between there, your life should be, if possible, serve other people, help other people. If not, at least restrain harming other. Then your life become meaningful life, whether believer or non-believer. Just to think oneself and exploit other, harming other is wasteful. Right? You really become troublemaker. Nowadays, you see, the Chinese communists describe me as a troublemaker. So maybe I am a troublemaker. So the reality, short 100 years, should not be troublemaker in this planet. Be a nice person. I'm exception. And sometimes you see, I jokingly telling my friend, since the Chinese government, communist, is consider me as a troublemaker, so in order to justify the accusation, I have to create some problems for them. Next question. Moksha, nirvana, I think every sentient being's sort of right to achieve that. As we already mentioned yesterday, moksha means improve a condition of our mind. So reach certain level, the more serious sort of destructive emotion completely eliminate. That's moksha. Other bever the suggest drumna chimdunana tarayo madu ringun naja ngasong jus.
So there is a popular Tibetan expression which says that if you are able, if you put effort, then even as a lay person, as a householder, you can achieve moksha. But if you are not ardent in your practice, then even if you are in a solitary retreat, even then would give rise to causes to propel you in unfavorable births the next time.
So everybody have the opportunity to improve one's own mind, one's own thinking. Sometimes I just jokingly telling people or expressing, there should be, now we should have two kind of nirvana or moksha. One individual moksha, that's I just mentioned. Another moksha is peaceful, compassionate world. That's the moksha of community, moksha of humanity. Like that. So I think the altruistic attitude with full self-confidence, then there is possibility to achieve world moksha, moksha of 6 billion humanity. I think possible. In any case, whether materialized within our lifetime or not, it is really worthwhile to make an attempt. I think Buddha's achievement or Jesus Christ's achievement not materialized within his own lifetime, and also Nagarjuna, all these masters. But they make effort, they show guidance way or path to towards the future humanity. So like that. Well, then next question. Unforgettable, I don't know. Of course, the night 17th March 1959, I escaped from Nobulinga. That's really unforgettable because there is actual danger on life. And if my life goes, that also, you see, some extent, you see, also Kasuta, quite sort of the setback or struggle. So that night, you see, just cross Kichu River, Brahmaputra River. Then from other side, we have to go other side, I think at least a few kilometers. I think maybe 20, 30 kilometers maybe. But it's just other side, Chinese military camp. So from other side, we can see the other side, Chinese military barracks. And sentry, we can see. And meantime, although we completely sort of the dark, not using flash. Fortunately, some light from the moon, some light there. Otherwise, it's completely dark. But there's a noise from the roof, horse hoof, like that. So it can easily hurt the other side. So that's one because of unforgettable sort of memory, because of fear, because of danger. And then a happy memory, when I reached Kansamani, the Chinese refused, that's actual border. According to similar convention, that's the border. So when I reached that spot where my long-time friend, the official, high official from the Ministry of External Affairs, and with a translator, one skimmies, and then another bodyguard as a Jagarkhamba. Since 56, I know. And then official from the Ministry of External Affairs who just spent a few years in Lhasa as the Indian consulate, right, consul general, like that. So we know. So when I reached that border, now no longer threat, fear. And on top of that, I met those, my old friend, waiting me there and full smile. That's another unforgettable memory. Like that. And then, of course, my first meeting with Chairman Mao and with other Chinese dignitary. As you know, the Chinese always is a very formal way. And the first time, and too much formal, that is, even you see, how to enter the hall where these leaders were waiting. So the Chinese, some special officer, you see, came to the day before and instruct us the first step, second step, and some step, then should stand. Then go this way. So they instructed us very detailed. So everybody very nervous when we enter that hall. And particularly my tutor, the former Lingan Boucher, too much nervous. So that also one unforgettable way. And then of course Buddha Jayanti celebration, 1956, meeting with Indian first president, Rajendra Prasad. Oh, really wonderful, wonderful person, really wonderful. And Dr. Radha Krishna as the vice president, and Pandit Nehru, prime minister. And then I remember Morarji Desai and Pandit Pant, home minister. All these real, and Raja Gopalachari, and Raja Dekasa, Jayaprakash Narayan, all these. That generation. Anyway, I'm quite fortunate, you see, seeing that generation. You are not. Then, Tabatobaliya, the Jain Chavina, less or
the question is on to achieve moksha or nirvana, is it necessary that all karmas are to be exhausted? Then His Holiness's reply is that according to Jainism, the karmas need to be exhausted.
Buddhism, according to Buddhism, less core penchig, less sato sapa ga. Ngasa le yordi, tell us so they can give you more meracha tabashego.
According to Buddhism, however, it is slightly different. So what happens when one achieves nirvana is that the new accumulation of new karma ceased. However, we do have, the person still is in possession of the previously accumulated karmas. But since the negative emotions, they are eliminated, these karmas don't have the factors to enhance them or to temper them to give rise to the results. So that is the state of achieving nirvana.
That was soon so that Nyumobe Triba, Shije Triba, Nyumju Tribas. The Nyumju Tribas, Domna, Chik that things you do the daily Kudu, and the city Kudu, Takada, Social Nyumobada, Nyashik Triba Nize, the Nyumobe Triba Pansona, any Tabatos.
So, what obstructs one from achieving higher states, such as nirvana, we technically call them as obstructions. And these obstructions, technically there are three. One is afflictive obscuration, cognitive obscuration, and the obscuration to meditative stabilization. So of these three, if you are able to eliminate the first one, which is afflictive obscuration, then you achieve nirvana or moksha.
So the basis or seed of that sort of kasoda, kasa, otuba.
The obscuration.
No, is the ignorance which which kasoda distorted ultimate reality of phenomena, ultimate reality of self. So that's why anatma, selflessness theory come. So selflessness theory, understand that, reduce the wrong view about self. So once that reduce, that wrong view about self is the basis of attachment, anger, hatred, fear, all these things, or negative fear. Of course, there is reasonable fear also there. That's good. And also doubt, or skeptical. They are also positive and negative. Even anger can be positive and negative. Attachment for time being could be some positive. Time being can be positive, but long run, negative. So I think we need detailed sort of dictionary about these different emotions. Emotion also, you see, not independent or absolute. So one negative emotion due to previous cause, due to other condition, it under particular circumstances, due to other factor, can be positive. And the positive emotion, but due to some other reasons, other factor, can be harmful, like that. So you see, we need very detailed sort of map about these emotions and counter force, like that. Next. Yes, if you look, the Four Noble Truth, and only the first truth, and also you see many Buddhist literature, because of the detailed explanation about first truth. And again now suffering, suffering of suffering, suffering of change, suffering of condition suffering. So three levels. So in order to achieve nirvana or liberate oneself, it is important to know the seed of ignorance. For that reason, the harmfulness about ignorance is very essential. For that related with third suffering. So it states the suffering of suffering, I mean desire for overcome that even animal also have. Now desire to overcome suffering of change, those samadhi practitioners also have. For example, the practitioner, Hindu practitioner or Jain practitioner, they really carrying sort of hardships already.
A hardship.
No, hardship. So these, they no longer desire for, pleasant worldly
pleasures.
Worldly pleasure. So they realize these are very nature of change suffering, not permanent, not absolute. Now the third sort of suffering is so long dominant by ultimate ignorance, is suffering. So therefore, the Buddha, the first of teaching, he mentioned Dungeshyavashas.
So it is for this reason that the Buddha, in his first discourse, he said that you should identify what suffering is constituted of.
Yeah. So therefore, anyone who just read these parts, then you may get the impression that Buddhism is something like pessimism. Then you must read third truth, cessation. Third truth is cessation of suffering. Then the fourth truth, path of that cessation. Then you get the fuller picture about Buddhism. It always is referred like that. A prisoner in prison, if the prisoner feel in the prison is very happy place, then it never develop desire to escape from the prison. In order to create effort to escape from the prisons, first you must realize this is not a happy place. So if samsara, we call samsara, you know samsara? Samsara, if you really feel very happy, then no need Buddhism. Enjoy yourself. Alcohol, little fighting here, little sort of attachment here, and then very happy, very colorful, isn't it? Detach, less colorful. But detach with clear realization of ultimate destination, nirvana, permanent sort of happiness, permanent joyfulness. And furthermore, Buddhahood. From Buddhist viewpoint, our final destination is Buddhahood. So, keeping in our mind that final destination, then with long-sighted interest, then worthwhile, make effort in order to develop that kind of enthusiasm, realize present condition is not sort of happy one, like that. So that's the sequence like that. So I always telling, that's the day, when I give some lecture about Buddhism, if later two truths not there, then no use to think about first two truths. Now compassion, also now, compassion means just concern about other sort of well-being. You should have fuller knowledge. There is possibility of end of that suffering. Then you develop genuine sense of concern. If you just, without seeing, without knowing the possibility of cessation, then compassion is just something like wishful thinking, just concern, like animal. You see another animal suffering, then much sort of worry, that's all. More knowledgeable. Or there is, now for example, one boat, you see, carrying some people, and then they begin to drown. Then someone see, or just a few yards, or there is land. So seeing that, then the sort of concern of the protection of these boat people much stronger. The other hand, there's no end, you see. There's no way to escape from that. Then simply feel, oh, so sorry, that's all. So that's why wisdom is immense sort of help to develop that kind of compassion. Karuna, Mahakaruna. Karuna in general, particularly Mahakaruna, with a fuller picture of the possibility of the cessation. Then develop sense of concern. So the Karuna, Paranja must combine. Just compassion without wisdom is something like blind. with wisdom, clear sort of picture awareness. So sense of compassion, genuine sense of compassion must be based on valid cognition. Or cloning. I think that we cannot generalize. Even abortion, we cannot generalize. Generally speaking, yes, this is wrong. It's act of killing. But one particular circumstances, for greater interest, for greater number of people, then sometimes it can be permissible. So now clone, now I think too early to say positive, negative. These research work eventually, carried with sincere motivation, and then eventually real positive result come. Then it's okay. With just sort of out of curiosity, out of sort of just research, and without sort of concerning about life, then manipulate. It's wrong. Isn't it? Like that. So, Buddhist approach, because everything is depend on the awareness of consequences, fuller awareness of the consequences. So, it itself something.
So earlier, yesterday, His Holiness mentioned about the 9 ways of approaching the disciples when giving instructions, allowing something and sometimes prohibiting something and sometimes asking them to do.
So because of different circumstances. So all these, you see, use intelligence and full awareness about the circumstances, then these, you see, different approaches happen, like that. So, very flexible. Then, next question.
So the political philosophy in Buddhism is not much stressed to be based on metaphysics of the concept of selflessness. So what you described of the political philosophy in the sense of the social things, in Buddhism there is what is known as the prosperous. There are four prosperous factors, and the first 2 come out of this.
So I think the basic thing is like that. See, the goal of Buddha Dharma, one temporary, one long term or permanent. So permanent nirvana, temporary sungmandu punzo.
The temporary goodness is the immediate goodness in the sense of a favorable state while you are still in samsara.
So punzo dishumbre.
So it is for this reason that they are a set of 4 prosperous things.
Ngondu punzo di dupchechene di gyudi norre.
And
tardu punzo di tarbachane di gyudi chere.
So what are these 4 prosperous things? The first one is the prosperity in the sense of in the sense of favorable rebirths or favorable states while you're in samsara. So that is a goal. And the means to get there is the wealth. So wealth is the means to get there and to achieve that. And the second goal is a goal in terms of nirvana or goal in terms of liberation. For that, the means is the practice of the dharma.
So the concept of anatma related here, not here. 다 the society 계시잖아요. 당군이 들어가.
So when you're talking about the political philosophy or the social the things, it is to do with the first two goodnesses. Goodnesses in terms of the favorable states while you're in samsara, and the means to achieve that, which is the wealth.
고불루루기 ranamala 나리야 문드 편소 지속 디기 과제 송도가.
Nagarjuna, he very clearly highlighted in his text Ratnavali, Precious Garland, as to the means, as to how to create about social well-being.
Jenny Adam, President Dernali Yosari, Jenny, Dota Tenju Niganalia, Luki Tenju Satiri, Jizo Kandishku, the Shigori.
So in fact, if you probe into the teachings of the Buddha and the commentarial teachings by the later Indian masters, we see that there's a separate set of teachings meant to create about the well-being of the society.
Like that. Huh? Oh. Yes. Last question? Last question, correct. Oh, your question. Yes, that's right. The answer chungba solution together. I think answer already, I think the made, you see, the altruism in order to help effectively other. First, you yourself improve. In other words, in order to manage others' well-being, first, you yourself you should manage properly. So there is the guilty solution.
So actually, this
I think you see, like you, I think main sort of purpose is you see teaching or helping student. But in order to do that, first you yourself you should get professorship. This is not necessarily because of the guilty or selfish view. In order to serve other more effective, first you yourself should qualify, isn't it? That we cannot say selfish. Otherwise, all the professors.
How does one remain happy when there's so much sorrow around?
Yes, there are some practitioners about altruism. For example, Lengri Thangpa, Kishi Lengri Thangpa, I think 11th century or 12th century. Great practitioner of altruism. Because of suffering, he always weeping. So his nickname is Langdang Munawasere.
So it is for this practice of him, the practice of altruism, compassion, always wailing, that he is nicknamed as the great scholar who wails all the time.
But for me, it is rather foolish. Look, Buddha's face, no tear. Look, Nagarjuna's face, all these great masters' face, not like Langdang Munapa.
Not like the wailing Geshe.
So Buddha and Nagarjuna, all these great sort of masters, they are realistic. As a sort of a practice of sharing other suffering. Oneself always worry, no use. Too much worry, your energy reduce. Your thinking power reduce. So without sort of fully utilize your thinking power, and your energy, how can you serve other people? So there must be some element to keep your enthusiasm. Clear? I think that's answer for your question. On behalf of your wife, isn't it? So if you're not satisfied, then next year we can discuss further. So thank you.